Teachers of Reddit, what was the trashiest thing you've seen a parent do? The cafeteria, which is used for parent meetings, has tables with fixed bench seating. You have to swing a leg over to sit down. Parent wore a short skirt and was commando. She also got up several times. Full stop. It's funny that you wrote parent, not mom. Now I have to imagine a dad in a short skirt. I called a parent about a behavior issue. I must have been on speakerphone, because I heard the kid come home. Parent starts screaming at and wailing on the kid, cussing, calling them all sorts of names. I don't even know if the parent remembered I was on the phone. I hung up the phone and went to my principal. Teachers are mandated reporters. Don't hit your kids in front of a teacher. I honestly wish I had a teacher like you. I was abused my entire life by my parents, and was even slapped by my father when I was younger in front of a teacher, and they didn't care. I also remember telling 2 different teachers about me being abused and they didn't listen or care, which all made me believe what I was going through was normal. My mom is a middle school teacher. Just about every day, some shit parent doesn't come pick up their kids because they literally forgot about them or were passed out drunk on drugs. Then the poor child gets sent to daycare, which is not free. Then the shit parents complain about the charge. My mom has had to bring random kids home before who barely know the way home. It's really sad. I am a teacher. We are not allowed to put kids in our cars and take them home. There are legal reasons at play there. But I often wonder how many parents would take advantage of us and have us driving their kids home all the time. There was nothing else she could do. Daycare had ended and they had nowhere to go. No phone calls were answered. Work at a school where over 80% of our population lives under the poverty line. I keep a cabinet full of hygiene products for kids to take. Deodorant, lotion, chapstick, hair gel, feminine hygiene products, shampoo, conditioner, those kinds of things in travel sizes. Being a teen is hard enough without having to cope with hygiene problems due to lack of funds at home. So one day the entire thing is empty. Odd. I refill the cabinet and 2 days later all of it is gone again. Refill with the last of my supplies. Catch the kid in the act of sweeping everything in his bag. I stop him. Take him in the other room and talk to him. He told his mother about the cabinet. She ordered him to bring her everything he could get. She was returning the items to Walmart for store credit to buy cigarettes and beer. I told him to tell her the cabinet is locked now. I bought a bike lock so it was not a lie. It has sickening. Edit, feminine for feline. Update, the lock was only on until the student left. It has been on the honor system for 15 years. Over 1,700 students and only one abuser of the system. I call that a good record. Some asked or commented about feminine hygiene products and their availability at the nurse or health office. I added them early on to the cabinet when I found out that the nurse charged 0.50 for them and refused to let girls take one on credit. Sorry for the typo. Damn you autocorrect. But hey, it made you laugh. Staff raised money to get an 8-year-old girl a winter coat. Live in rural Canada. Girl came to school the next day in a t-shirt in the dead of winter. Her mom wearing the brand new child-sized jacket. Edit, for those wondering, the principal confronted her about it and mom told her to duck off and anything her kids owned belonged to her and she could do what she wanted with it. Children's Aid was called and that student lives with a very nice foster family now. Edit 2. Mother was rail thin. Looked like the stereotypical junkie archetype. The sleeves were 3 inches too short. Didn't cover most of her stomach and she could do it up properly. When I taught in Lower West Virginia, a mom showed up to a 5th grade sports event methed out. Wish I could have said this was atypical. I'm not a teacher, but my mother is. It was her birthday and I live 3 hours away from her. I drove to my parents' house unannounced to surprise her for her birthday. She was obviously working as it was school hours, so I drove to the school she works at just as they were finishing. I was heading to the staff room, which is behind the reception area. I was about to announce myself to the receptionist and ask to wait for mum in the staff room when this angry as duck dad storms in. He was abusing the duck out of the poor receptionist because his daughter got in trouble for being a redhead in class. The principal comes out and tries to defuse the situation, and a minute later my mother comes in on her way to the staff room. It's hectic in there, and then all of a sudden the angry dad headbutts the principal right in the face. My mother screams and angry dad turns and takes one step towards her. Before he got any further, I, without thinking, punched that hunt in the face and his nose disappeared. Police came shortly after and I wasn't charged. It was classified as restraining with reasonable force due to him headbutting. Happy birthday, mum. Mother came to a school sports day swigging from a bottle of wine. We always felt desperately sorry for her daughter, because whenever she returned to school following a holiday at home, this was a boarding school, we had to wash all her clothes because they reeked of cigarettes. And this poor little girl was easily the most unhappy child I've ever seen. Not a teacher but a college administrator. Parents will call in very frequently when there is an issue with their student's living situation. If they're an asshole, frequent, I quote FERPA to them. Best example, I had to bill a student for around $600 in damages to their room at the end of the year. Mom called me pissed off about this because they had tried to repair the damages, poorly. She ended up yelling about this over the phone. And I reminded her that her son was 22 years old and that I could only talk with him about this. Kid calls me back the next day and apologizes for his mom being a bitch to me and asks if I'm able to just bullshit his mom when she calls back. It's a weird line of work. Edit, this got big. Some vocabulary I've learned for other folks dealing with this. Snauplo parents. My cousin is a teacher and she once had a parent come to a parent-teacher conference extremely drunk and right before the meeting tried to pull out a bag of coke and start doing lines. Police were called and so was CPS. The school also had to call 911 once because a parent overdosed in the parking lot while waiting to pick up their kid and the poor kid was too young to understand why their mom was slumped over in their car. Wrecked their car buying Drew Gus on the way to pick their child up from preschool. And then try to get another parent to cover for them with their estranged husband. Not really do. But once while waiting for parents to arrive to a parents' evening conference, my colleague pointed out one of my students' father sitting in the waiting area. He said, "You see the woman sitting next to him? Well, that's his wife. And the woman sitting on the other side of him? Well, that's her sister. And also his other wife guard." When I taught English in China, my good friend and colleague started sleeping with one of the mothers. A woman 15 years his senior and married. I taught her daughter and would often hear stories about how they snuck around behind the husband's back. Mum used to be a teacher and this happened to someone she worked with. Child was strangling another child. Teacher wasn't strong enough to pull the child off of the other child, so ended up having to thump the child until he released. Child ended up rather bruised. Parents of the child doing the strangling decided they wanted to try and sue the teacher for hitting their child. Result equals teacher who prevented their son from murdering someone suspended from work until the case gets rejected from court. This one was pretty funny. A parent brought out a pack of sweets or something and her son asked, "Can I have some?" To which the mother responded, "Where's your ducking manners? How about ducking please?" I palmed so hard. My mum's story. A girl and her parents were being interviewed before starting high school. The primary school this girl went to notified the high school that the girl was autistic. When my mum tried to discuss how they can best cater to the girl's needs, the parents interrupted. The parents sent the kid out of the room. Say to my mum she's not autistic anymore, she grew out of it. The girl is clearly autistic and the school was trying to help. I have two. There is a parent who would walk through our closed campus every single day. As teachers we are supposed to stop her because it's a closed campus. Every single day she would pretend she didn't know the rules. We always knew it was the same parent because she let her younger children who weren't in school yet ride around on their scooters ahead of her. One day she was walking through with a stroller. She was not paying attention and her freaking baby started falling out of the front of the stroller. I saw 4 teachers jump up to help the kid and the mom didn't even acknowledge. The other one happened directly to me during parent-teacher conferences. I was meeting with a mom and her live-in boyfriend about her son. At the end of the conference I asked if they had any questions I could answer for them and he started asking me personal questions and flirting with me. I deflected and told them I had more conferences. But other teachers have told me that parents have hit on them before, so it's probably pretty common. Not a teacher anymore, but an RN. Kid wakes up from dental surgery. A 4-year-old who needed a root canal. Several extractions and fillings. Horrible dentition. Mom dad nowhere to be found post-op. Eventually wander into recovery and from parking lot. Reeking of cigarettes and weed. Proceed to give the 4-year-old a baby bottle of Mountain Dew. The pediatric dentist took the parents aside. Into a consult room and yelled at lectures them. They told him to mind his own ducking business. Scooped up the kid and walked out. Saddest part was I remember the poor kiddo had filthy feet and hair. Also reeked of cigarettes. He looked so defeated already. All I could think was that this kid has an uphill battle for a decent life. Being an RN is heartbreaking. Not always for the reasons you'd expect. My mom's a teacher, and in order to talk to a parent about a child that was struggling due to the school environment, she arranged to meet at the parent's house. Keep in mind this was scheduled in advance with a set time. The dad answered the door 100% naked and tried to have the meeting with him naked on the front porch. My mom doesn't do anything outside the school anymore. Edit. Spelling. Not a teacher, but my dad once worked as a groundskeeper at a primary school. Worst thing he ever saw was a guy dropping his daughter off to school, and before she went through the gate her dad went through her school bag and took out all of her packed food and left eating it, essentially leaving her with nothing to eat that day. Dad was so angry he said he wanted to knock the guy out right then and therefore leaving his child with no food for the day, but he ended up going straight to the principal to tell them what he witnessed so it could be investigated properly and get the kid help. I work in a middle school with an elementary school next door. 2 girls from my school were arguing all day and told their parents about it when they got out of school. The parents proceeded to call their families up to the elementary school and fought in front of a bunch of kindergartners. Knives and everything. Cops were called. I think some of the parents are still in jail for gun possession parole violations. One of the kids was pulled from our school and put in foster care. Blamed me for their child's suicide attempt. The kid wasn't even coming to my class. And the suicide attempt was apparently not bad enough to hospitalize her or get her the help she needed. The parent confronted me with this in the fall. By the spring we had a meeting with us, the kid, and my administration. And the parent came around to the fact that their child was essentially gaslighting them and using me as a scapegoat. But blaming someone who had spent maybe 5 hours with their child in a group setting for a suicide attempt was really low. IDK if this counts, but back in elementary school my friends and I made a pretty successful business making survival bracelets. Since we were the only ones making them, we had a monopoly and sold them for $5 and customs $8. The PTO, Parent Teacher Organization, who are in charge of festivals and organization of other things outside of education. They found out and saw a money pit. They basically told us we couldn't sell them anymore unless we gave all the profits to the PTO. By the end we probably made around $500 until we were forced to stop. We even tried doing them through a black market for selling them and keeping the profits. Then the PTO found out and we got suspended. And finally decided to stop ducking assholes. Not a parent, but we had a babysitter who would roll up about 2 feet from the curb in her ancient dented-to-it gold van, have a preteen in the back slide the door open, and then scream get in at the tiny 5-year-old she was picking up. The poor girl started crying every time. Parent witnessed her event, not a teacher. My kid's very first day of school, she's 4, 1/2. In the gym hall all the kids and parents are in lines according to class, and one by one the teachers come and take them away. Our group was last to go. As we are waiting, a guy storms in clearly drunk, starts shouting at a woman in the line, "Why the duck didn't you tell me it was now?" I've been looking everywhere etc slapped the mum. Another dad in the line pulls drunk dad away and pushes him. He falls down on top of another kid. That kid's mum screams. Drunk starts to run out. Squish's kid's dad chases him. He made it out of the gym but then got caught and the sheet kicked out him in the school reception. Everyone is freaked out. Kids are crying, then the very happy teacher who is completely unaware comes in. I start googling prices for private schools. I, female, was co-coaching basketball with a newly divorced dad who came to every game with his girlfriend in 2008. She was an overbearing itch. Long story, turns out that youth coach was having an affair with this itch, from where they both work, and that co-coach had told his wife and 3 kids, one of which was on the team, on Christmas Eve that he was leaving for this other woman. IDK what happened. But they broke up sometime later. Sometime after that, the football coach got a parent pregnant. You guessed it. Samick. After the baby was born, he took another job. I haven't seen him since. Interestingly, the mom's daughter ended up being something like a nationally qualified runner. I'm thinking run faster. Mom slept with her daughter's adult boyfriend. Kicks daughter out of house. Daughter goes to live with dad. Mom tries to say dad abused daughter. Real piece of work. I used to work at a high school in Oklahoma. One of my students had a Ku Klux Klan, KKK, profile picture and was promptly questioned by me and the assistant principal. The student claimed that he was actually part of the KKK and that he identified with being a member of the KKK. After we called his parents, they agreed with him. Claimed that they were also part of the KKK. Then said that our family can have whatever beliefs we want. And if we decide to hate all non-whites, so be it. Duck your black culture school. I used to work in a daycare. And on my first day in a new room with 15-24-month-olds, I picked up a little boy and noticed he had dropped something through the neck hole in his onishi. I pulled it out and it was a lighter. When we returned it to the mom and told her where we found it, she laughed and said this kid gets his hands on everything. Poor kid also sounded like a smoker every time he laughed or coughed. Not a teacher, actually a student, but I was talking a classmate out of suicide and out of desperation. I emailed his counselor so he could get some help. The school called his aunt, legal guardian, and she yelled at him and encouraged him to heal himself. My heart broke and I had to call the cops. Worked out in the end because he's safe, and 99% sure he got the help he needed, but it's still so sad that his aunt would encourage him to die. Sitting in a parent-teacher conference with several teachers and at least one administrator present. The mom plucks her hair from her head and starts flossing her teeth with said hair. My wife is a teacher and had a parent show up to conferences with a joint behind his ear. Our vice principal is a former army sergeant who's built like a tank. He's well liked and an amazing role model in a community where many of our kids don't have a good male role models. On several occasions I've seen mothers step well over the line and make very sexual comments to him directly in front of their kids. I mean in plain sight of their own children and in ways the kids notice. He's always very respectful and often asks another staff member to join him if he sees one of these parents coming to talk. But it's pretty damn trashy when it comes to some of the innuendo I've overheard. These aren't jokes either. They try to get handsy with him too. Weed smoke coming out of the car as they drive though pick up and I put kids into their car. Threatening a teacher over Thor kids behavior. I'm a male elementary teacher. I've had some sketchier parents make weird comments to me. Small rural area and there are some poverty, drug problems, and I can feel some single mothers staring at me because I have a decent job. Not a teacher. But there were 2 students who got into a fight. So they were sitting in the office and called the parents. The parents proceed to show up and they got into a fight too. Who would have guessed? Not myself. But I was in a RELTR with a religious studies teacher I went to uni with. One of the modules she had to teach was about Islam. She had a few parents who would send their kids into school with their homework not done and a handwritten note on the homework saying along the lines of, "I have told Bobby not to do this homework because I don't want my child learning about this religion and I will report you and the school if you try to make him." Went on a trip to America for the performing arts. Parent met their kid at the end of the trip for the last 2 days. Parent went out and got hammered both nights. And would sneak into her students' rooms at feast and wake all the kids up to try and party. Tagged along to our final tour dinner with all the kids and got hammered again. Worst person ever. Obligatory not a teacher. My mom is a principal though. One of her students was caught shoplifting and subsequently kicked off the cheerleading squad. The mother called the school complaining that she wasn't stealing because she put it back after she was caught.